We are live, Mr. Gasser. We are live. How about maybe we should get an applause on that, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got to
Something.
figure out where all this stuff is here.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, and the controls tonight, which proves anybody can stream if we can do it. Tom Ginn, Mark Gasser, glad to be back. This is our second Monday of this month, and I can't wait for tonight's guest. I'm not going to reveal that because Tom went on a due diligence tour and secured something that to me is very personal. What we're going to talk about, kind of a cool subject, and particularly hearing from the younger generation about this particular topic. I think everybody will enjoy it. We've had Stephen on before, so looking forward to this. Tom, I'm not going to ask how your weekend was. Tell me what you did exciting and like today or.
Well, today, nothing exciting. Some personal business type stuff, but other than that, enjoying almost a 70-degree day.
Yes.
It's a record high. I'm looking at my computer. The banner says record high today. So, but we're going to get some rain and snow later in the week. So this is still Wisconsin. So, but Mark, we started. How long have we been doing this live stream? When did we start? 4 or 5 years ago now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say closer to 5 now. Kind of scary, and we're still trying to get it right. That's the scary thing about it.
And our previous brand was Elevate Your Profits, and
yes,
it was all about business, how to, from personal development to having business leaders come in, talk about what it takes to win, from the thinking side to the application side, what it takes to win in business. We've, promoting different companies, different organizations, that type of thing.
Correct.
And then last year I had surgery on my knee. I took a little hiatus for a while. And then we decided to come back on and rebranding ourselves. We're still in the process of determining what we're going to call our live stream. It's either going to be G-Force or Gmen.
Right.
It's sort of leaning toward Gmen. That's what I'm getting feedback on.
We asked last week. We got some Gmen factors in there. We had some people that came on. As a matter of fact, look at that. Robert Brooker, right out of the chute, is saying hello to us, which, you can share that, Tom, since you have the controls. But Robert, good to see you as always, and outstanding.
Our visitor from Canada. So
yes.
He may not know anything about the United States Constitution, but he'll learn something.
I would wager to say Robert does. I mean, I think Canada struggles with what we struggle with here too.
Yeah.
Some of our rights. But since we're talking like Constitution and all that, my favorite is when we get into like the First Amendment and you talk about the 5 tenets, like, limited government, popular sovereignty, separation of powers. We could go on here. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and so it goes. I think it's funny. A lot of people don't know about, the rights constitutionally that you have versus policy.
In my opinion, Mark, it's really scary that what people think they know about the
country.
What they don't know.
They
I've got some questions for our guest regarding that,
right?
As well,
right. But yeah, that's a great point, because I've seen people get all geeked up and enamored over someone with a video camera or a camera out in public, and I'm laughing, and I'm like, well, what laws are they breaking? And I'm not a pro First Amendment type guy, but I respect what they do. There's some great ones out there I've watched. It's just funny to watch how people, engage with a camera. I guess it's because someone's standing there with it. But you and I both know, you go to the doctor, you go to the grocery store, you go to a school, you name the public place, and man, there is a camera on you. And And
every intersection has it, has its
right.
light, has a
And
camera.
guess
So.
what? Tesla cars have them, and they're videoing you as you're driving by, or they're driving by you. So, chill out, people. It's not a big deal. Cameras are here. They're here to stay. That's the world we live in. And, get over it.
Yeah, we got a couple more comments coming in here. Let me see who else is showing up here. Who we got coming?
I do my mother's.
Eric Bam. How you
Bam.
doing, buddy? We're gonna have to get Eric back on again.
See, I can take it though, Eric. You know what? You can throw all you want. Hey, man, if you keep saying that stuff, Eric, I'm going to defriend you, and put you in the outbox on Facebook, because I didn't like that comment. And that's another thing. That's the beauty of this country. He can make these comments. I don't get offended by it. That's his opinion. On a serious note there, but I know Eric's kidding around. That's just how he rolls. But it amazes me how people get so uptight of what they say, and the tone it was said. Less gas, or yeah, okay, I'll shut up. It's a Tom show.
But anyway, yeah. So we're rebranding ourselves. We're going to be covering all sorts of topics. Everything like we're doing today on the political side, the Constitution. We'll be doing sports stuff. We'll be doing business stuff. We'll be doing personal development stuff. We'll have guests coming in to support those things.
Sure.
Our whole goal and mission is that something we bring on live stream can impact somebody's life in a positive way. And I think Stephen is our first guest of the year. I met Stephen through the American Legion here in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Last year he competed. He made it to state. Just fell a little short. Both him and his brother competed, and amazing young men. Their knowledge and the effort they put into preparation, the study, and all those type of things is mind-blowing. I never studied that hard in my life. I never had. And you know what? Giving a speech for a lot of people, it's the akin to they'd rather die by fire than give a public speech. So I commend our guest for what he's doing. He's not on a stage, but he is on a stage in front of a camera. A little bit different way to present, but
Right.
he's won the local and the regional competitions through the American Legion Oracle competition. This is another way to practice, just to get maybe some feedback from our audience out there. The more you do it, the more confident you feel. And that's part of the whole game of a public competition like this. So that's the reason we're bringing Stephen on. He was on last year. We had Rex Sykes help a little bit.
Yes,
Rex
we did.
is a Hollywood actor, and he does a lot of public speaking and that. So he gave some tips and ideas and help there. And so this is without any further ado.
Yeah, let's bring Stephen out here.
Good afternoon, Stephen. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking, and it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, what we're going to start out with is a little bit about yourself. I'm going to pose some questions there. Where are you from? What grade are you in school? A little bit about your schooling, whatever you like to share there. And a little bit about why do you do public speaking? I know you belong to another club or organization that does speeches, but what was the motivation? What was the reason to do public speaking and debating?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, it's all yours.
All right, excellent. So my name is Stephen Bott, as has been mentioned. I'm from Neshota, Wisconsin, very near to where Mr. Ginn lives, and I am a senior in high school. I've been homeschooled since kindergarten. So my whole life I've been homeschooled. That doesn't mean that I'm totally isolated from the rest of the world, however. I do enjoy many different co-ops and organizations, one of those being speech and debate. So I know Mr. Ginn specifically through the American Legion oratorical constitutional contest, which he was referencing just a moment ago. That's an amazing opportunity for public speaking with a scholarship attached on the national level through the American Legion. And he was asking specifically about the motivation I had in public speaking. Well, to be quite honest, my mother signed me up for public speaking like 4 years ago when I was a freshman in high school, and I really didn't want to do it. I did not enjoy it for the first, I don't know, semester or so. But as soon as I started doing tournaments with my other speech and debate organization, that being the National Christian Forensics and Communications Association, the NCFCA, I was really enamored with the growth that I saw not only in myself, but also my peers in the ability to express my thoughts and engage well with others. So I do speech and debate through that organization as well, specifically from a Christian worldview, but we enjoy many different kinds of speech and debate. This year, our debating subject is actually about outer space policy. So I've done a lot of research there, though I do not claim to be an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but that's been very interesting and fun to engage on as well. Does that answer all your questions, Mr. Ginn?
Yeah, sure. How did you get involved with the American Legion Oracle? How did you get exposed to that opportunity?
Well, I actually am acquaintances with a boy who won state about 3 years ago for Wisconsin. And at that time, there weren't very many competitors, similar to what there is now. And he told everybody in our other speech and debate organization, you guys should really try this. It's very good, and it helps you to learn about the Constitution and express subjects there as well. So I got into the American Legion contest specifically through him, but I've really enjoyed my experience, and I've also recommended it to many of my other friends as well who do speech and debate.
Nice.
I'm going to ask you, what's the name of your oracle, and why did you pick that topic?
So my prepared presentation for the American Legion Constitution speech contest is entitled Liberty Through Limited Power. This is coming specifically through an important idea that is the foundation for our Constitution. Our Constitution was ordained to support liberty. So I read a book actually and did some thinking about how our Constitution achieves protecting our liberty. And I think it's important to note that that's almost entirely in one way or another through protecting the people against abuse of power. So to preserve liberty, the Constitution limits power, and that's what I explain in my speech.
Wonderful. I can't wait to hear it again. I got my notes from when you gave it at the local presentation here in Oconomowoc back at the first part of the year. So I'm excited to hear it again. I know there's a second part. We're not going to do the second part, but you have a prepared presentation. It's 10 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir. This prepared presentation is 10 minutes, and then I believe you're referencing the drawn topic, which is a 3 to 5 minute speech on a section or clause of the Constitution, which is drawn spontaneously.
Yeah. So you have to be a student of the Constitution to be prepared for any one of those 5 points they want you to talk about. So
that's the goal. Yes.
Yes. So I do have a couple questions before we get going. Okay. Being a young person out there, you're not involved in the public schools or a private school but in your community of young people like yourself, what's the feeling and thought about the Constitution? How much knowledge do they have? Do they understand the Constitution? Is it being really taught or propagandized in a negative way? What do you see out there?
Right. On the whole, I am disappointed with the lack of knowledge about the Constitution in my peers, even in my peers that aren't necessarily from the public school, though I enjoy lots of friends who do attend public school and also private schoolers as well. And so I think on the whole, there's a lack of knowledge for my generation. And specifically, I find that very unsettling when it comes to preserving the goals of the Constitution, because the Constitution was wonderfully designed to preserve our liberty. And so I find it unsettling that young people nowadays don't understand what the Constitution guarantees to them.
Right.
And because they don't understand it as well, I don't think they're as well prepared to defend their liberties or defend the Constitution, which upholds the freedom we have here in America.
Great, thanks for asking. Because I've taken some constitutional classes here in some local organizations that support teaching the Constitution. The Five Writers, for example, Luke Kaviaski here in town, very active in the political arena here locally. He was an alderman, he ran for mayor and those type of things. But I had some study when I was in college on the Constitution, but when we dove into it from a different perspective through like Liberty University and some other organizations teaching the Constitution, it is so deep. On the surface, it looks so simple, but it is so deep and profound. It's crafted by a higher source, in my opinion, that no man could have designed as perfectly as I believe the Constitution is. So I think it has a divine root and power that if people take some time and study that have a different perspective than just rules and regulations and do's and don'ts and those type of things. So with that said, do you need to step away, get a glass of water or anything before we start?
I believe I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to put Mark and I in the back room and let you have the stage.
It's all going to be you, sir.
It's all right.
You got me in the back room. Tom?
All right, excellent. Here's my speech. In 1776, Frederick Bott joined the revolutionary forces in the cause of liberty to fight for independence from Great Britain. In 1861, his great-grandson, Alexander Bott, joined the Union troops to fight for the preservation of the Union and liberty for the oppressed. In 1941, his great-grandson, Thomas Bott, joined the U.S. Army to fight against Hitler and fight for liberty for the oppressed. And just like my great-grandfather, the men and women of the United States military today are committed to defending liberty. But what the United States will fight for abroad, we are losing at home, because liberty is possible only when power is limited. In this short speech, I will first explain that liberty requires power to be controlled. Second, that our Constitution preserves liberty through limiting federal government. And third, what we as American citizens must do if we are to preserve our precious American liberty. So first, liberty is possible only when power is limited. Liberty, or the ability to choose, is closely tied to the idea of power. Absolute liberty cannot be governed by any outside power, whereas absolute power endangers all liberty. But the American founders were not any more in favor of the anarchy of absolute liberty than they were of the tyranny of absolute power. They desired a delicate balance, where liberty was governed by moral law and safeguarded by limited federal government. James Madison claimed, quote, "Where an excess of power prevails, liberty of no sort will be duly respected. No man is safe in his person, his possessions, his faculties, or his opinions," end quote. And Ronald Reagan summarized, "As government expands, liberty contracts." By 1775, King George III had long been abusing his power over certain American colonists of his. Now, unfortunately for the king, these tenacious Americans held their liberty dearly. They declared their independence, and they defended it for the cause of liberty. But how were Americans to preserve this newfound liberty? They looked to Montesquieu, the great political philosopher who said, quote, "Liberty is possible only under moderate governments, where power is not abused. Yet it has been eternally observed that any man with power is led to abuse it. He continues until he finds limits." End quote. The new government, therefore, must be strong enough to preserve order. Yes, but it also must be limited enough to preserve liberty. And it was out of this need that our Constitution was born. Which leads me directly into my second point: how our Constitution preserves American liberty through limiting government power. According to its preamble, the United States Constitution was ordained to, quote, "secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity," end quote. This was done through an ingenious system of limitations. So let's explore these checks and balances, beginning with the separation of powers. According to Montesquieu, quote, "there is no liberty if the power of judging is not separate from the executive and the legislative powers," end quote. Therefore, under our Constitution, the legislature has the power to create the laws. The president has the power to veto the laws, and the courts have the power to interpret the laws. Each branch is separate from the other two, while they are mutually accountable and also answerable to the people. Consider also our Bill of Rights. The first 8 amendments enumerate specific rights retained by the American people, with the 9th Amendment clarification that this list is not exclusive. And the 10th Amendment directly limits federal power. Quote, "the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to those states respectively, and then to the people," end quote. Finally, I would urge you to consider the amendment process. Article 5 of our Constitution requires that any amendment originate in either a 2/3 supermajority of Congress or the state legislatures, and then be ratified by 3/4 of the several states. The founders recognized that any power-hungry tyrant would want to change the limitations found in the Constitution. So they put the amendment process in the hands of the people to give them ample time to preserve their liberty. But wait, before we go any further, am I overstating the role of the United States Constitution in preserving American liberty? No. I would urge you to consider the French Revolution. According to Britannica, these revolutionaries desired liberty, and they attained it easily enough by slaughtering every single member of their monarchy. But instead of preserving liberty through a strong constitution, they merely left the power in the hands of an emerging oligarchy, which soon gave way to the dictatorship of Napoleon Bonaparte. No liberty. So maybe it is our strong constitution that has preserved American liberty for so long. Ronald Reagan said, quote, "The great safeguard of American liberty is the totality of our constitutional system." Yet here's the problem. Today in America, our Constitution has come under attack, and our liberty is in danger. Which leads me directly into my third and final point: what we must do as American citizens to preserve our precious liberty. Thomas Jefferson said, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance." So, we must be able to recognize when our government oversteps its constitutional bounds, thus encroaching upon our liberty. Let's examine some examples that I found recently. NPR reported in 2021 that President Biden issued a requirement mandating that all passengers on interstate travel services wear masks. Violators of this law would receive up to $35,000 in fines. Now, whatever you happen to believe about the viability of masking in the first place, this is a gross encroachment upon your liberty because you no longer have the freedom to choose. Biden claimed this power as an emergency response power, but according to the National Constitution Center, he directly ignored Article 2 of the Constitution, which does not mention this as an executive power. Therefore, under the 10th Amendment, this power must reside in the states. But ignoring the Constitution is a bipartisan problem. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, a nonpartisan constitutional think tank, records released in 2022 under the Freedom of Information Act detailed George W. Bush's expansive plans for inhibiting American liberty in the case of a national emergency. He claimed the power to inhibit his private citizens' communication, their ability to travel, and their right of habeas corpus. Now, thankfully, Bush never utilized these so-called powers, yet their existence endangered our liberty. James Madison said, "Liberty will never be perfectly safe until an encroachment upon its constitutional provisions shall be felt with that same keenness that resents an invasion of our dearest rights." Our American duty, therefore, is to be able to recognize when our government oversteps its constitutional bounds and to speak out. But we must also be able to cultivate in ourselves those virtues necessary for a country desiring liberty. I mean the industry to be self-sufficient. I mean the honesty to respect the rights and the property of others. And I mean the integrity to keep power in check. These are the virtues of a strong and vigilant nation deserving of liberty. On my 18th birthday, I signed up for the draft. Now, I don't plan to pursue a career in the military, but if my nation calls, I am willing to sacrifice for the cause of liberty, just like my great-grandfather Thomas, his great-grandfather Alexander, and his great-grandfather Frederick. Though I may never fight for liberty abroad, I promise to guard it vigilantly at home and to cultivate in myself those virtues necessary for a free people to flourish. And if you will join me, together, we can preserve the liberty for which so many have died. For as Thomas Jefferson said, the people are the only sure reliance for the preservation of American liberty. Thank you all so much.
Awesome job. Awesome job. I'd like to just, reflect on a couple things that you said that I think is important. There at the end, even though you said you're not going to get in uniform to defend the Constitution. I remember Mark and I are both veterans, and to this day, that oath means so much to me. Even though I may not agree with the opposing political party or their views or whatever, I would still put my life on the line for our Constitution and the freedoms and liberty we have, even though I don't agree with them. We've got other people on the other side that would never take that position, and I don't call them patriots. That they would lead us to tyranny and what you expressed there, losing our liberty, and we'd have persecution, in my opinion. So that's first thing, what you closed out with, having that desire to stand up and speak your mind, freedom of speech, to protect our views and our liberty and our freedom that the Constitution gives us. So I just want to commend you on that. You expressed that very well. And history tells us a story. We can look at history and see what direction we're going. And most people don't take the time to see what has happened in the past and try to draw parallels. Are we diverging? Are we converging? Or are we running parallel to history? And I think we're diverging on some areas in history that will be detrimental to mankind, not just here in the United States, but worldwide, in my opinion. So I'm expressing myself under, my belief and my passion of the Constitution. I'm not going to, it's not important what party I'm involved with. I think there's certain things that are fundamentally by law, and law isn't a do's and don'ts. Law is something that's ordained, not created by man. And I think the Constitution, it wasn't really, man wrote it down, put the thoughts, but I think the thoughts came from a higher source. And through life experience, through history experience, we're able to decipher what I call truth. And I think, by studying the Constitution, it gives us a better sense of gratitude for what we have and where we could be going if we didn't have some sort of knowledge. Stephen, I appreciate you taking the time to express your thoughts on liberty through limited power. Powerful points of view.
Thank you.
Mark, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I told you would ask you a question or two. So talked about our Constitution, and in essence, you talked it for me. You touched on various subject matter like religion, speech, press, assembly, petition, the 5 tenets of our First Amendment. But I have a question for you. This has to do with high school. And this actually happened. I can't mention the school. I can't mention names, dates, or places because it's nearby here. A group of students protested ICE. Okay. They decided to leave class. Found out that a lot of these people were considered AWOL, absent without leave, so to speak. And with that, more than a first-time offender, some of them actually got in-school suspension versus out-of-school suspension. My point is, how do you feel about that when younger people, like what's going on right now? Because right now there's a big struggle. Tom knows this. I know this. I hear it directly, indirectly all the time about what the guy in office is doing right now. And they get all geeked up about people that have entered here illegally, which they have. I'm not going to argue about it. That's a fact. That's not make-believe. But how do kids feel about that, your age? Like, it's, do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? Do you think it could be handled better? And there's no right or wrong answer here. I just like to know from your perspective. Because that's a touchy subject.
Yes. I think it's important to note there that, as I said, our Constitution is being attacked not just by George W. Bush and Biden, but also I would say Trump is not following it, as I would
Sure.
say. So that's important to note as well. Further note, I don't know everything about the ICE protest specifically. I'm not like as well versed as I could be. So take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Oh, yeah.
And personally, when I see protests like that, I am rather astounded, actually, by the violence they often include.
Right.
Now, obviously, I appreciate the freedom of speech. Right? I love speaking, and I think it's an important point, as I mentioned in my speech. I appreciate our First Amendment rights, and one of that is peaceably to assemble.
Oh, sure.
However, some of these assemblies are not peaceable, and specifically with the school protests you were mentioning, I would say they're actually going against the peaceable structure of our society.
Right.
In certain cases, at least. I'm, once again, not an expert. I don't know everything. So I think that's an important distinction to draw. Obviously, we have the freedom to express ourselves, and that's an important point of preserving our liberty and our democratic republic. But I think it's also dangerous when we allow it to be taken to a violent extreme where justice is no longer being sought. It's more like making my point at all costs. I don't think that's a very...
And that's why I asked you that, Stephen, because I know for a fact, like throwing trash on a football field or being destructive with property, those type of things, that goes back to our First Amendment. Peaceably assemble, do your thing, great, no worries. But some people can't help themselves. They got to get, a little vigilant and get active with some sort of, when I say violence, it might not be physical, but they may take some items and destroy property. And I never did understand that, even as I was growing up. It's okay to protest. I'm cool with it. But do you have to be destructive? And do you have to hinder, people trying to go about their daily business? But I appreciate you sharing that with me. I do have another question. This you talked about the America and the flag and all that indirectly. I can't tell you who, what, when, where, why, but how would you feel if you saw somebody having covering the American flag, say of they could be in the military, although they wouldn't do that, but in another capacity, another organization. It could be a church, it could be, and you see somebody, it could be like with duct tape or how would you feel about that? I mean, how do they feel about people doing things of that nature? And you have the freedoms to do it. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying, do kids actively think about these things? Like, hey, I'm going to fly the flag upside down. I'm going to, all this craziness we've seen. So at your age, tell us, educate us, like where are kids coming from?
Well, once again, I unfortunately can't speak for most children. In fact, I probably hold a different view than most
Right.
adolescents my age do at this point. But I find it an embarrassing act of anti-patriotism to cover the flag, because the flag doesn't stand for one political party. It doesn't stand for one president.
Right.
Rather, it stands for the country as a whole. So if you cover the flag or dishonor it through putting it upside down or burning it, something like that, to me, that shows you're dishonoring the country as a whole and also every citizen within that country. So
Right.
it doesn't bode well for the condition of our future if
Right.
we can't respect the country as a whole. Maybe we don't agree with someone who's in power. That's
Sure.
all right. But we should still be able to uphold the benefit of our country as a whole and honor our country. So I think it's really devastating to patriotism to do something like that.
And
Very well said. Very well said.
that's tremendous because none of us agree with everything that's going on in the White House. I mean,
Right.
Trump's not the do all end all, Now, if you ask me, is he doing a good job? Yeah, I think he's doing a pretty good job. Absolutely. Is he the best president we ever had? That's debatable. We're not going to go down that road. But
Right.
I'm just saying, and we have the right to debate that, discuss that. I do have to ask you this. Do you have any political aspirations? I know you're young yet, but or have you ever thought about once you get into college, think about like getting involved with politics? And since you're a scholar of the Constitution, I'm just curious.
Well, to that last comment, I'm trying to be a learner at all stages. I definitely don't know everything there is to know, and I'm endeavoring to keep my mind engaged and keep learning.
Cool.
Specifically with political aspirations, not at this moment. Possibly at some point, but that's not my goal. So if I need to do that to fulfill my duty as a citizen, then I would be open to it. But I'm not going to go to college to study political science in order to become the president one day. That's not my point of view.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
What are your aspirations? What do you see yourself? What are your goals in life, short term as well as the long one? What do you plan on doing with a career? What's your desires and goals?
Yes, thank you for asking. I'm going to graduate in May, and I would like to attend a private Christian university in my area, Maranatha Baptist University, if I can make it financially responsible. So that's not set in stone, but that's my goal. And after getting a college degree of some sort, ideally I would study pastoral ministries with a minor in criminal justice at the university, but I would also be open to going to the local tech college and studying criminal justice as well. What I would like to do eventually is join the state patrol after college. I actually attended the Wisconsin American Legion Academy at the state patrol headquarters last summer, and I really appreciated that experience. I have a great gratitude to the efforts and sacrifices of my local law enforcement officers, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to serve my community, to protect and provide as well. So that's my goal at this moment. After college, pursue a career in the state patrol and serve my community in that way.
Oh, good. You'll be a great service to the community. That was my original career path. I majored in criminology and police science in college, so I had some constitutional, study there. That's where I sort of got introduced to it was never taught in high school, other than we had a revolution and blah blah blah, who the key writers of the Constitution, but never studied the Constitution per se, just a gloss over. But that was my first experiences, was early in college. But the law enforcement, I commend you for that. That's not an easy place to be.
Definitely
not an easy place. So, that's not to take, put water on the fire there, but it takes a special character to be a police officer and do it right. Because you could be drawn into passiveness, which is harmful, or aggressiveness, which could be harmful as well. So you got to find that balance of your character and being able to assess people, the psychology of people, body language, all that type of stuff comes into play. So take some psychology and those type of things along with it, because you're going to need it, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Anything else?
That's it. So March 28th, we'll keep everybody abreast of your.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that the date that you get up in front of everybody and do your thing, the 28th of March?
That will be the state championships, yes.
Nice.
And where
you're going to win,
how
right?
do they pick it? It just 1, 2, and 3 get to go, or how do they determine that?
Only first place gets to qualify to national championships.
Okay.
I believe that's what you're asking.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the luck, and we have our prayers for you. You're, when you're on stage, I've seen you on stage, your body language, the way you position yourself with the audience, engage with the audience with your eyes, and that type of thing is awesome. That's so important in public speaking. You've done well. I commend you for where you're at. Winning national championship is the ultimate goal, but you've accomplished more than most people will ever accomplish in their life at the level that you're at. Seriously.
Thank you for the compliment. That's very
absolutely, man. You did a great job.
That's it.
And I knew Tom was going to ask you what your goals are, but you're still a teenager too. You like having fun, right? You got prom coming up, right? That'll be.
Well, yeah. In theory, I'm a homeschooler, so I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll meet some young lady in a public school, and you can take her, right? Ask her out. There you go.
You're making them blush now.
Just a thought. I know. I'm teasing you, Steve.
Well, thank you for the advice. Yes, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. So with nothing else to say, Mark, we'll be back next week.
Right.
Same time, same stations. They
Steven said it all, man. I'm not gonna like Eric said, less me, but you did a tremendous job, and it makes me feel good to know that there are people like you out there of your age, and you're passionate about this, and you definitely have studied it. No, you're not the expert, but what Tom said, just to piggyback on that, you know more than the average person out there that's been on the planet for quite a few years. That's all I'm going to say about our Constitution.
Yeah.
So that I commend you on that.
Well, if nothing else to be said, we'll do a final applause, and they don't run any place. Okay, Steve?
All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us this evening. This is something that Tom was real passionate about us doing, and I was glad to get Stephen back. But moving forward, I know we're going to be talking about other subjects, and I can't wait to get into all this fun stuff. It could be news. It could be, whatever. All that stuff you shouldn't talk about, we're probably going to talk about it and have fun with it. So some people are going to like us, and some people are going to hate us, and that's okay. That's your choice. And once again, it goes back to what this young man talked about, our Constitution,
Again, thank you, Stephen, for taking time out of your day. It's nice and sunny outside. You probably want to be out there raking leaves or something, but anyway,
No.
have a great day.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Steve.
you.
Seriously, thank
And
you.
best of luck. You don't need luck
Tear it
moving
up.
forward with your speech, but you'll do well, my friend.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Right.